All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, we are back again on the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, I was going to do a video on this particular issue separately. I did touch on it a little bit on yesterday's preview against Aston Villa. If you've missed that preview, do check that out. The game is still, maybe close to 24 hours away. So if you haven't had the time, by the time this goes, this goes public, this particular video, it'll probably be less than 24 hours away into the match. So if you haven't had the chance to check the preview, do check that out. However, I said in the preview that I want to take my time to actually talk about this particular issue, which, honestly speaking, ladies and gentlemen, I did not really, at first, when this particular news came about that Marcos Alonso will stop taking the knee, and basically he's put out his explanation as to what he's going to do, which I'll show down the track, that he's not going to take the knee and he's simply going to point to his sleeve where it says no to racism. He doesn't believe the knee is, got the value that it's meant to be having at the moment. It's sort of reducing in terms of that value that it's meant to have, that impact that it's meant to have. So he's going to pretty much point to his sleeve. So I thought, fine, each to their own. And at the end of the day, I personally think that it's that whole taking the knee, it's kind of losing its impact as well. I feel like nothing has really changed since players have been doing this, Black Lives Matters and whatnot, taking the knee. Nothing really has changed. There's still a whole heap of racism that happens in social media. There's racism that happens outside. So I don't think this taking the knee is creating that big impact anymore. So I thought, fair enough. Marcos Alonso isn't the first player to do this. There are coloured players that have stopped taking the knee as well. Wilfried Zaha, Ivan Toney, and we'll talk about them and their stance as well down the track. But as this news was sort of catching fire, I started to see that there was a lot of hate and there was sort of journalism that was placed in a very, very sort of conniving manner in a way to make the viewers sort of feel that Marcos Alonso was doing something wrong. So let's check this out, the issue of how I'm feeling at the moment with the journalism at the moment directed towards Marcos Alonso, and then really have a look at what Marcos Alonso had to say, then look at what Thomas Tuchel had to say in the press conference as well yesterday, and then we'll look at what Wilfried Zaha and Ivan Toney had to say about this particular situation, and then I'll give you my thoughts right at the end of it. So this is the headline that came out yesterday from Sky Sports Premier League Twitter page. Marcos Alonso says he will no longer take a knee before matches as the Chelsea defender believes the anti-racism gesture is losing strength, with head coach Thomas Tuchel admitting he understands his players' reasoning. Now, it seems like, okay, well, that's not that bad. That seems like it's quite straightforward. Then I saw this, and honestly, I appreciate Adam Newson a lot. I think he's one of the better journalists out there, works for Football.London. But this particular situation got me quite irate. And this is why, I'm sort of triggered to do this video, because I feel like Marcos Alonso is getting sort of wrongly, I suppose, given the vibe that he's doing something wrong. And there's a whole heap of new set of abuse that's going towards him, which is unnecessary. So Adam Newson says, why not here? And I'll track back to show you exactly why he's saying why not, in what context. So this particular individual, Carl Anker, who is a journalist and a broadcaster for The Athletic, he wrote, Alonso has said he's not discussed his decision to stop taking the knee with any of his fellow players. Already they're trying to sort of highlight the fact that he's not discussed this with any of the, any of his teammates. Oh, what a sin! What a sinful act he's created. My first thought was, why does he have to explain this to anyone? Does anyone else explain things to him? I mean, why does he need to explain a personal thing? And at the end of the day, he still believes in the cause. It's not like he doesn't believe in the cause. He 100% believes in the cause. He's just doing it in a different way. So this particular journalist puts down, Alonso has said he has not discussed his decision to stop taking the knee with any of his fellow players. Now, have a look at some of these comments here. I don't know whether this guy is being serious. He says he should be in jail. I think that's being a bit sarcastic over there. But this one kind of caught my eye. Liam Toomey. This was a surprising bit for me. Also, deciding a gesture is losing its strength while replacing it with another far less noticeable gesture. I mean, what is going on here, ladies and gentlemen? What is going on? We've got one journalist saying, "Ooh, he's not spoken to any of his teammates about it." And then we've got another journalist saying, "This was the surprising bit for me." I don't even understand why it's surprising for him. It's at the end of the day, Marcos Alonso still believes in the cause. Why are we making it seem like he's a culprit here and he's a criminal here? And then goes on to say, also, deciding a gesture is losing its strength while replacing it with another far less noticeable gesture. I mean, who are you, Liam Toomey, to say that it's far less noticeable gesture? I mean, are we now just there? Is the cause now about the gesture in itself, whether you stand, whether you take the knee, whether you point to your, like, it's about racism. It's not about how you portray that. It shouldn't be about taking the knee to protest that racism is wrong. Racism should be kicked out. Why has it become a symbolism that if you don't take the knee, then any other gesture is incorrect? Like, first of all, the fact that we're even talking about this is ridiculous to me, that the cause in itself is so huge and so important, but we're worried about what type of gesture that one is showing, whether you're standing, whether you're on your knee, whether you're pointing to your sleeve, whether you're doing something. Apparently, what you do has become now the most important part, which I'm finding is so ridiculous, this particular comment from Liam Toomey. Now, off the back of this particular tweet from Carl Anker, this is where Adam Newson says, why not? And I feel like, what? Where are these people getting this energy from to question what Marcos Alonso is doing in this situation? How? I mean, the audacity to say, why not? What's it to you? What's it to you that he hasn't discussed it with his teammates? Yeah, I'm pretty sure half of the teammates probably feel like him, that they probably don't understand why they're taking the knee anymore. It's lost its value. And I'll get to it. I'm a strong believer in fighting against racism. I've faced racism here I live in Australia, and I've faced racism. I've not just faced racism here, I've faced racism all around the world. But it's a bigger issue, and it's not going to get solved by just taking the knee. That's what I'm trying to say. But here we have journalists saying, why hasn't Marcos Alonso discussed this with his teammates? Further on, he puts another tweet, which is coming from Mayowa. And Mayowa is saying, so this is from his perspective. Obviously, his opinion on Marcos Alonso. Mayo is saying, if you are saying kneeling isn't doing anything, then what will come from pointing at the badge? You've essentially made the decision that it's all about the gesture. Yes, well, at the moment, the journalists are making it seem like it's all about the gesture. And why are you thinking, Mayowa, that by taking the knee is the only representation of fighting for racism? Why is it that particular symbolism is the only form of symbolism that shows that you're fighting racism? It's baffling to me. Then he goes on to, furthermore, a plight that's affecting your teammates means you should consolidate them, not just act. I mean, a plight that's affecting your teammates means people, to the players that are affected, and it's not just some players, there's a whole heap of players that face racism. Marcos Alonso probably faces a whole heap of different style of racism. Just because he's not a colored player, that doesn't mean he doesn't face racism. There is a whole heap of different style of racism that he faces as well. He gets so much abuse. Let's not forget about all the abuse he copped under Frank Lampard era. All the abuse that all the different articles that journalists have written up against Marcos Alonso. that incident in West Brom last season, how we lost 3-0. Marcos Alonso got the red card. Alonso didn't turn up in the dressing room, went to the bus straight away. There was a whole heap of articles about that. And Alonso was banished for months. The amount of abuse he copped from the fan base from that incident, not even funny. Not even funny. And they always say Spanish slurs to him and whatnot and all sorts of racism stuff towards him. They do that. Check out his comments. All is there. So I don't understand this sort of take from Mayowa. And then Adam Newsom then also puts that as also. He's a staunch believer, Adam Newsom, that Marcos Alonso has done something wrong, which is insane. Now, let's have a look at what Marcos Alonso had to say. Alonso on not taking the knee. I'm fully against racism. I'm against every type of discrimination. And I just prefer to put my finger to the badge where it says no to racism, like they do in some other sports and football in other countries. He further on goes on to say, I prefer to do this way and, of course, to say very clearly that I'm against racism and I respect everybody. For now, I prefer to point to the sleeve and that's what I will do. This is what Marcos Alonso said. I've absolutely got no issues with this. And then off the back of that, Thomas Tuchel in the press conference said, the thing for me is I know Marcos personally and I trust him 1,000% that he is absolutely committed against racism. Thomas Tuchel and Alonso choosing not to take the knee. Bottom line, Tuchel said in the press conference that he kind of understands what Alonso is doing because he's saying that the whole taking the knee is now losing its impact, it's losing its value. We've got to do a whole heap of other stuff besides just taking the knee. By taking the knee, it's not like racism has disappeared. No one even talks about it. Even now, when the whistle goes off, it's just a natural thing. Everyone just takes the knee, then the whistle goes again, and they start the game. No one even talks about racism or anything like that off the back of that. It's lost all touch. It's just become part of the process now, part of the routine. And it shouldn't be that. It's a far bigger issue. And this is what Thomas Tuchel was saying. But certain journalists, certain other parts of the fan base feel otherwise about it. And it's creating abuse, new set of abuse towards Marcos Alonso when it's not needed. Before I give you guys my thought on it, I just want to quickly share a couple of other point of views. I'll share Matt Law, and then I want to show you guys what Wilfried Zaha and Ivan Toney had to say about this. Matt Law, this was the article that he came up with. Tuchel believes Marcos Alonso could have provided a wake-up call over the fight against racism by deciding not to take the knee. Yeah, it is a wake-up call that taking the knee is losing the impact. You got to think about other ways, and I will discuss that very, very soon. Now, just quickly, I want to show you guys what Wilfried Zaha had to say about this back in February, but this particular article is from March. So Crystal Palace forward Wilfried Zaha said he will continue to stand tall after becoming the first Premier League player to refuse to take the knee. He goes on to say, let me just see if I can increase that a little bit. There you go. My decision, let me see if I can just highlight that. My decision to stand at kickoff has been public knowledge for a couple of weeks now. Zaha in a statement released before a 1-0 win over West Bromwich Albion. There is no right or wrong decision, but for me personally, I feel like kneeling has just become part of the pre-match routine. And at the moment, it doesn't matter whether we kneel or stand. Some of us still continue to receive abuse. There you go. It doesn't matter anymore. This is an important line here from Wilfried Zaha. I feel kneeling has just become a part of the pre-match routine, and at the moment, it doesn't matter whether we kneel or stand. Some of us still continue to receive abuse. He goes on to say, and this is exactly what I want to talk about down the track. As a society, I feel we should be encouraging better education in school. That's the absolute mega point here. Education in schools and social media companies should be taking stronger action against people who abuse online. There you go. People out there, players out there taking the knee, and social media companies are doing nothing about it. Literally everyone in social media on a regular basis gets abused, racially harassed. Nothing gets done about it. Nothing. So, Wilfried Zaha is absolutely right. Let's have a look at what Ivan Toney had to say. Ivan Toney explains why Brentford players won't take a knee, why Brentford players won't take a knee. We are being used as puppets. Now, I'll go on to see what his quote is Ivan Toney believes players are being used as puppets in taking a knee, and this is one reason why Brentford will no longer be making the anti-racism gesture before games. We have had a long discussion about that. We are not taking a knee, he told Sky Sports. Everyone has their say and everyone agrees. We have been taking the knee for however long now, and still nothing has changed. We are kind of being used as puppets in my eyes. Take the knee and the people at the top can rest for a while now, which is pretty silly and pretty pointless. Nothing is changing. There you go. The punishment needs to be stronger. You're not going to do so much, and in a way you have to get that helping hand, but it doesn't look like it's coming at the moment. So you have to push for that, and hopefully things change. You have to try and educate people more, but the question is, do people want to be educated? That's another topic. You can only do so much. You can only try and help certain people. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. Absolutely, bang on. Now, I want to now talk about my perspective on the matter. First of all, I think we all need to come to an agreement that this taking the knee, it's losing its gloss, it's losing its value, it's losing its impact. What it started off as a powerful message, and when it was in the beginning, players were doing this, I think last season, just before last season, Frank Lampard's first season after post-lockdown, that's when it all sort of materialized. It was powerful. It was really, really powerful. And all the protests that was happening in the United States, it was supremely powerful, and it needed to happen, right? You needed to see solidity. You needed to see unity. But now, after almost, 1.5 years plus 2 years, that taking the knee doesn't have the same impact. So that's that. Now, if the Premier League is going to continue doing that, that's fine. But the players should not be held accountable, or if they don't proceed to take the knee or they do a different gesture or they don't do it at all. Because at the end of the day, it's their choice how they want to tackle this situation. At the end of the day, it's about fighting against racism. Just by taking the knee is not going to solve it. And just by not taking the knee, that doesn't mean you're a criminal. It's really up to the individual how they want to do this. So that's that. I personally think, as Wilfred Zaha said, if you want to really fight racism, and I'm not talking about the football organizations and Premier League and whoever else, FA, if you really want to do something, create some sort of fun where you can educate the young people first. It all needs to start from grassroots. Why don't you create a curriculum where you get the players to visit different schools all around Europe? If it's a Premier League, then all around England. Get them to visit schools. Get them to talk about racism. Make racism part of the schooling curriculum. How many schools have racism as a subject? How many universities have racism as a subject? I didn't have it in my school, racism as a subject. I didn't have it in university either. So that's where it needs to start. Then it needs to be in the family upbringing, who you meet at workplace, the general population that go to work. The government's got to do immense work in order to create curriculums within workplace that racism, harassment, discrimination, all that kind of sort of things are wrong. And they need to be training individuals on a regular basis, every 3 months, every 6 months, whatever the case is, different sort of training sessions, different messages that needs to be delivered. And until all of these happen and it's sort of stuck in our head and we understand that how bad racism is, none of this taking the knee and whatnot is really going to work. It may work in the beginning, but it will lose its value over time. We have to do other things that matter in society. We have to, as I said, create a fund, make it a curriculum in school so kids from the grassroots understand what racism is and why it's wrong. And then only in the future generations to come, hopefully we start seeing those changes. Social media companies, they need to figure out, they need to do more about this situation. Ban people, restrict people from creating new accounts and whatnot. Send reports to the police so that you can find the IP address of all the people that are being abusive online. That's what needs to happen, ladies and gentlemen. I feel so saddened by the situation. I've seen a lot of comments, and I'm not going to bring those comments up at the moment. There's a whole new set of abuse that's going towards Marcos Alonso now, and it's really, really sad. Unnecessary kind of, abuse. And now I want to talk about, is there a deeper sort of meaning to all of this? Are journalists going after Marcos Alonso for a deeper sort of meaning now? Is it because that he had a bad relationship with Frank Lampard? Now we find a situation to go after Marcos Alonso. Let's try and hit him as hard as possible. Is it that? Because of the fallout he had with Frank Lampard when Frank was the manager. Now let's find anything that Marcos Alonso does and let's try and picture him as a monster. Is it the fact that he's starting as a left wing back and Chilwell is not getting that opportunity? Is it that? Is the English media getting upset that an English player is not starting as a left wing back, Ben Chilwell, and Marcos Alonso is starting? Is it that? How can we make the image of Alonso look very poor? How can we trigger that? They know the fan base. There are lots in the fan base that don't like Alonso that much. They call him slow. They call him this. They call him that. They know how the fan base reacts to these sort of things. So they come up with flashy articles, headlines. Then you've got people like, Adam Newson asking why not. Carl Yanka saying Alonso has said he has not discussed his decision to stop taking the knee with his fellow players. They're making a full scene out of it. Why? Why are you doing that? Is there a deeper meaning behind it? Because I'm thinking, would the media go off like this had it been a Mason Mount that stopped taking the knee? I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. Would the media do this had it been, I don't know, whoever else? A Reece James, a Ben Chilwell, a Christensen, Aspilicueta. Why is it getting so much focus? Is it because it's Alonso? I don't know. I find this whole thing very strange. Alonso's made a decision and he's given an explanation, yet it seems like it's not good enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are. I want to completely stand with Alonso in this situation. Alonso doesn't deserve. I've seen some comments. Honestly, he's getting that abuse again. He doesn't deserve it. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you've enjoyed this video, smash the like button and please comment. I want to hear each and every one of you guys how you feel about this, because yeah, I'm keen to know how you are looking at this particular situation. The journalist's view, other players, what they've said. Is there a deeper meaning? Please let me know. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe as well. Do look out for the watch along later tonight for the Chelsea versus Aston Villa game, and then obviously the review after that. Until next time, everyone, take care. See ya.